Hi, everyone. I'm Bob Ruggiero, Vice President of Communications for Quilts Incorporated. And this is the last in our series of interviews with winners for the 2022 Festival Judge Show. And we say the biggest for last. So here we have Angela Petrocelli. She won the Handi Quilter Best of Show Award. That's a $12,500 award for her quilt Beyond Reason. And it's 96 by 96 inches. And I've got it up here behind me. I've got both the full shot and the detail, and we'll explain a little bit more about that later. But Angela's from Prescott Valley, Arizona, where she joins us today. And her artist statement on this quilt, she says, "Some accomplishments are beyond reason. This quilt is the embodiment of a dream, not of a finished product, but the journey and the completion of a process. I believed I could. I thought I should. I said I would, and I did. And the total piece count on this quilt is an amazing 226,576 pieces." So Angela, welcome. I'm surprised you still have fingers on you at this point.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for having me. And I still don't wear glasses either, so I'm good.
Well, this is an amazing quilt, and like I said, it did win the best of show. And we've got the full quilt here, but over here is the detail, and I really want people to see this, because this is what it looks like when you look at it really close, and it's just simply amazing, the detail. So tell me a little bit how you started the process for this quilt, what made you go through with it, and more importantly, your level of patience you must have had with this.
Well, when I was making my last quilt, which had like 30,000 pieces, I was complaining online about how many pieces it had, and someone had mentioned me looking up a quilter by the name of Albert Small, and apparently I think it was 1955, he made a quilt that Ripley said was the most number of pieces ever sewn together, and his quilt had 123,600. So I thought, like, has anyone ever beaten that? So I asked around, and everyone said no, they don't think so. And at first I wasn't even going to make the quilt. It was more about just the designing, figuring out, like how it would come together, what fabric to use, the design and everything like that. And then it just kept bugging me in the back of my mind. So and as I was designing it, I thought, I can really do this. I can actually like break the record. So I set out to do it. I said that I could, and so I did.
And what these pictures also can't show is that each square is almost three-dimensional. They've got a depth to them that, again, people can only see when they're looking at the quilt. How did that affect your design or completion process about trying to make it with that kind of spatial depth?
Well, actually, that was because there's so many pieces, coming together, and since it's not a log cabin, so it's not really flat. You get, there's almost a 1/4-inch hole in the center of each one, and it's just all that depth built up, and it made quilting a lot more difficult, and putting it together a lot more difficult. But yeah, it was sort of a happy accident that whole texture thing happened. So
that's great.
but yeah, there's actually 49 pieces. Each square is a little bit under 1.5 inches, and there's 49 pieces in each.
It truly is amazing. So going back a bit though, tell me a little bit about how you first got interested in quilting and involved with it, and what's kind of kept your interest over the years.
Well, when I started quilting, I was actually planning on doing all handwork, because I had done like hand embroidery, and I crochet a lot. So I was more interested in handwork, but it just didn't appeal to me. So one night I was like, I had never completed anything. One night I was real frustrated, so I put it down, and I took like $20 to the casino because I just wanted to get out of the house. And I actually ended up winning like $900. So the next morning I went to my local quilt shop and I purchased a sewing machine, and then I started to sew. And it took 3 years to finish my first quilt. So by the end of that, I started out with one sewing machine, a pair of scissors, and a charm pack. But by the end of the 3 years, I had like a room full of stuff. So I really enjoyed it. And I think if I had told my husband at the end, like, I don't want to make another one, he would have been like, oh no, you go in that room full of stuff and you sew something. I don't care what it is, but you sew something. So I kept with it, and I do enjoy it.
Now, how did you first get exposed to quilting though? Was it something you saw in a book or a show or a family member? How did you first become knowledgeable about what quilting was?
Well, my mother's a quilter. Yeah, and my grandmother was a quilter. So before I started though, I had never been interested in, sewing or doing any of that type of work. I was really just into the hand embroidery. So quilting was sort of a happy accident when I was looking for something to do with my time.
And so when you started this effort, and again, the measurement 96 by 96. So this is a very, very large quilt. What did your family and friends think of the whole process? Did they think, boy, Angela's got a lot of patience?
Yeah, well, the only person that knew was actually my husband and my mother. I really kept it under wraps, and the owner of my local quilt shop also knew what I was doing. But I really kept it under wraps. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing, and they didn't really think I was crazy because they knew how I was. So, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And there were times where I didn't think I would finish. And actually, once during the quilting part which was actually the most frustrating, I was actually so frustrated at a point. I was standing there, scissors in hand, with the quilt there, just ready to rip it up. Oh, no. And I know. So I had to actually leave the house, and I took a drive, and then I came back and refocused, and then I finished it. So
well, we're certainly glad you didn't take scissors to that quilt.
Yeah.
So what was your reaction like when you found out not only you had won in the show, but won the best of show? This is again, the top award every year.
I know. I really couldn't believe it. Well, actually, I got the phone call at like 8:30 in the morning, which I usually stay up all night. So like that I was actually sleeping when she called. So she woke me up. At first I didn't know who it was. And I got a little emotional, because it's a very emotional quilt. It took a little over 6,000 hours to make.
Wow.
So it's really been a staple in my life for the past 3 years. So I got pretty emotional to be honored that way, and to have someone appreciate, all the work that I've put into it was pretty incredible. I never thought it would. I was just hoping it would get in, because that was one of my biggest fears, was that I wouldn't get juried in and no one would be able to see it. And I had spent all this time, and then, well, I want everyone to see it and to experience it. So I was happy to get in. I was shocked to win, and shocked to win Best of Show. It's just incredible.
Well, that's awesome. And then I guess my last question is, what do you hope people maybe take away from viewing your quilt after they see it, and then after they see it up close, I should mention?
That they can do it if they if they set their mind they want to make a quilt, that they can do it. There's going to be times where you're not going to want to finish it, and I'm actually one of those. I only work on one quilt at a time, so I don't have any UFOs. So this is it. I need to finish it to move on to the next thing. And if you really put your mind to it and you really want to do it, then you can do it, even if it takes 6,000 hours.
Sage words for all quilters. Well, Angela, again, thank you so much for taking out the time. I want to remind everyone, Beyond Reason, which is behind me, won the Handi Quilter Best of Show Award in the 2022 Festival Judge Show. That's a $12,500 award sponsored by Handi Quilter. Angela, again, congratulations. And we want to remind everyone, you can see this quilt with all the finalists and winners in Houston, November 3rd through 6th this year. So, Angela, thank you for taking out the time.
Thank you.